Hello fellow adventurers, Ryan here from D&D Awakening. Join us on our travels today with a new D&D story. DM rage quits after players are uncomfortable with Romance RP. Long-time readers of this sub, first time posting, but what happened with my D&D group recently was enough motivation for me to make an account just to share this story. I hope this shows light for people to speak up when uncomfortable. I have been playing with the group on and off for the last few years. Real life and players leaving has killed more than one campaign for this group. Most of the issues seem to have stemmed from differences the players have had with the DM. Some small, some I found out recently were quite large. It consists of several friends and my wife. Recently we have been attempting to get through the Curse of Strahd campaign. Being the third or fourth time the DM has attempted to run this setting, once previously with us and once or twice with another group, this becomes important later, he stated he was going to run things differently this time, taking inspiration from the Bram Stoker's Dracula films of the early 90s. Everything was going great until the DM decided to have Strahd try and seduce or court my wife's character. The DM decides that Strahd is going to charm the player character while the PC is suffering from a level of exhaustion, making it nearly impossible to save. Then takes the player aside and has a private conversation with the player about a dream they had about Strahd. DM states the only way to get out of the charm is for one of Strahd's companions to harm the PC, or for them to go over 24 hours without Strahd recasting this charm ability. DM also does all this in a way where, while the players know, none of our PCs know, so none of us can help. DM then forces the party to accept an invitation from Strahd for lunch at his castle, where he somehow subtly recharms the PC, at disadvantage without our PCs having the ability to know. We leave to do a task for Strahd, and that night he shows up again to charm her again with disadvantage, and then takes the PC on a date using the Nightmare Horse. This was about 2 weeks ago. During that week before the next session, I brought up to my wife that this was a lot of very focused and forced romance RP and that it was making me slightly uncomfortable. Even though it's RP, watching someone flirt with your wife can be weird. My wife then tells me it was starting to make her uncomfortable as well. So I decided I would take the heat and let the DM know I was uncomfortable with how things were going and if he would meet as a group to discuss the issue, or if we could just drop the romance plot. I sent this in a Discord and he seemed fine with it. By the way, not trying to cause an incident, but it came up this week here at home. I'm not entirely comfortable with the whole romance roleplay idea, especially when it involves my wife. Maybe this should be a group talk as it's possible. I might not be the only one uncomfortable with it. Or maybe it's just cause it's my wife that makes it uncomfortable. That is fine and understandable. The next weekend comes when we would normally try and play some D&D. And during the day the DM comes in to chat and is a bit irritated, but all they seem to want to talk about is politics on this day. After a few heated discussions in the group, the DM takes offence and just leaves the channel, having heard something he didn't like. Remind you, he is the one that steered the conversation towards politics. Never shows up for D&D that night, claiming that his kids needed him. It happens sometimes, so we all go about our weekends. Send him a few messages over the next few days, seeing if he's okay and sending some advice for some issues he had recently brought up, but I get no responses. Cold shoulder. Halfway through the week he sends me a message stating he needs space to work through his feelings. Being an odd message, and since he was in Discord as this time, I jumped in to talk to him about it. He basically refused to talk to me and said he needed time to sort some stuff out, so I left it as I had to go to work anyway. Fast forward to this past Saturday and I have not heard from him. However, another player in the group let it slip on Friday that the DM had been talking to them and complaining that I ruined his story he was building. This made me quite irritated, as he had lied to me that it was okay and that he was now angry about something I thought DMs were not supposed to get angry about. Later that day, on Saturday, he joins the Discord and has some pleasantries with the other players and then finally addresses me. His tone instantly changes to that of a parent scolding a child. I'm in my 30s mind you, so this is a bit insulting. DM then admits that they had lied to me in the above picture and was not okay. DM states they had put a lot of work into this and that for some reason it won't work without this romance connection. He then states that he does not feel that the amount of work he put into this should be stopped by my uncomfortability, and it is not his job to change his story if a player has an issue. That admittedly set me off a bit. I then informed him that I was not the only uncomfortable, as my wife was as well. Instead of being rational, he retorts with, then she should have messaged him about it. I inform him my wife is non-confrontational and that he does not get to decide what my wife does and does not do. Additionally, that it should not matter what player is uncomfortable. If any player is uncomfortable, it is the job of the DM to alter whatever events are making players uncomfortable, contrary to what he thinks. At this, he gets very irritated and starts being irrational. Starts making things up like how romance is a core part of D&D anywhere and how we have no right to avoid it. To which I reply that no, it is not a necessary part of D&D, nor has it ever happened in any other campaign before this we have participated in. Besides the odd PC trying to get laid, we have never done real romance RP before in this group. He then goes off on a tangent about how this is the same thing that happened with his other group. Found out he had tried this in the other group's Strahd campaign, and when they were uncomfortable he freaked out and that ended their friendship and half the group split up. He then states it's my opinion that romance is optional in D&D and rage quits the server and starts removing me from social media, etc. So here we are with the aftermath. It seems creepy someone you are supposed to trust can be this far off their rocker about so much. In the aftermath of all this, he has been claiming to anyone that will listen that I was talking down to him and being unreasonable. I am happy it ended before something worse happened, however it has left our group feeling, I guess, gross is the word. What were his true intentions? Why was he so attached to this romance plot that it made him go crazy on us for trying to stop it, and so many more. Not quite sure how to end this, but I hope it helps someone who feels like the DM is acting weird in the future so they can avoid the issue or leave if need be. So guys, what do you think of the DM's actions in this one? Do you think he went overboard, and do you think that the player had a right to obviously ask him to change the plot slightly if both him and his partner was uncomfortable with the storyline? Personally, I feel the DMs are there to tell a story, but if that story makes you feel uncomfortable, then it is your responsibility to bring it to their attention, and the DM's responsibility to adjust the story to meet the criteria for everyone. But what's your thought? Why don't you comment below and let me know. So guys, thank you for joining us today. Please feel free to show the channel some additional support if you like the video by hitting that like button and maybe leaving a comment below. The engagement really helps us to reach more people and grow this community. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next D&D adventure. Take care.